10 minutes after 7, time for me to check in with my good old buddy, Sergeant Siebert Johnson. Morning, Sarge.
Morning to you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great, all the better for hearing your voice. How are you doing?
I'm good.
And what's happening with traffic? I hope that you're calm and settled now, that your numbers are hopefully not fluctuating as much.
Well, today I think it's a little better than it was yesterday.
Well, we just have to make our todays better than our yesterdays.
Great, thank you.
Wonderful.
Good morning to you. Good morning to our viewers and our listeners. Conditions on our roads have changed in areas along Highway 5. We have a long line of slow-moving traffic coming from South District, creeping towards the area of Map Hill. There are delays there. Along Constant Road, we have a heavy movement from Salters Junction going towards Norman Niles roundabout. That's a build-up. Through Mallory Hill onto Welches, conditions were steady. Upper Highway 3 also turning Watford Bottom, we have heavy traffic reported. Once I'm in the area of that Highway 3 area, I received a call a few days ago where the caller stated to me, Sarge, are you aware that they're building a house in the roundabout at Lairs? I find it funny, and I smile, but and passing the area, I observed there is a building being erected in the roundabout. As I want to inform that caller that we have no control over that. That's in the hands of the Town and Country Planning. I believe they would have given permission to have the building erected there. But we'll look on, we'll monitor it. In the meantime, along Highway 2 Jackson, inbound flows is steady going towards the area of Green Hill. Moderate flows reported on Royal Map Highway and Building. Steady traffic from the north. This is on Highway 1 going towards Frank Road roundabout where there's a moderate build-up. Onto Blackrock Road, steady University Drive, Spring Garden Highway now building. On the southern side on Highway 7, inbound flows were steady along Maxwell, Maxwell going towards Top Rock, heading on to Worthing and Hastings. Fords Road was moderate, Sergeant Village, inbound flows heavy going on to the stretch of Upper Calmarock and Bishop's Court Hill. The ABC Highway, nothing to worry about. Just keep it safe until my next update. It's all yours.
Thanks so much, Sergeant Johnson. We'll be checking in with you once more during our program. We continue now with our morning news, sports and weather. Shivnarine Chandapal could be facing disciplinary action. We go to Pearson Bourne to tell you why.
That's right. He could be facing disciplinary action. He's the West Indies batsman, as you know, for an interview he gave to the Line and Length network that may have breached the terms of his retainer contract. In a letter from the West Indies Cricket Board CEO, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, Chandapal was warned that his actions warranted discipline. Well, CBC Sports has been reliably informed that the letter calls on Chandapal to give his explanation within 10 days. The WICB reportedly accused Chandapal of denigrating, in particular, the West Indies head coach, the selectors, the chief executive officer, and the executive members of the board. Well, during the recent Digicel series against Pakistan, Chandapal spoke of his relationship with the WICB during a lunchtime interview with the Line and Length network. Well, Barbados has named a squad for the 24th Caribbean Golf Association's Junior Amateur Golf Championships this year, which will be played at the Barbados Golf Club in Durance from July the 4th until the 9th. The team, which has some familiar names like Serena Smith, the reigning Barbados Open Ladies Champion, started training in earnest from yesterday. The tournament will be played in 3 divisions for boys and girls 11 to 18 years. Denny Foster has been the coach for the national side since the tournament's inception in 1998, and he believes that this year, more than ever, Barbados has the chance to be overall winners.
It is very pleasing that Barbados will be represented in every age group. This is something that we have struggled to do over the past years, but this year we will be represented in every age group, and of course that enhances our chances of winning the event. The team will be captained by Warren Bino, who is currently at school in Scotland at Loreto, and Loreto have a very well-known golf academy, and he plays for the first team and is being coached at that academy. So we expect a lot from him.
Well, over 140 players and officials from 9 overseas countries will converge on the island for that tournament, which will cost the Barbados Golf Association about $240,000 to stage. Sagicor is the main sponsor, and Vice President of Marketing and Business Development, Mark Blakely, presented the check to the President of the Barbados Golf Association, Birchmore Griffith, in the presence of General Manager of the Barbados Golf Club, Betty June Leacock, and Coach Foster.
The impact of hosting the CAGC in Barbados will be positive on all fronts, not only financially in tourism and business sector, but also, more importantly, in fostering athletic skills and building friendships among the young people of our region. We expect a highly successful event where we showcase our talented juniors and demonstrate our commitment to the growth of golf for juniors here in Barbados.
Well, that was the President Griffith who said that hosting those championships is an excellent opportunity to showcase Barbados. Well, the action in the Pine Hill Primary School's netball competition was in the East yesterday as matches were played in the Aileen Morg Jeffers Zone 8 at the King George V Memorial Park in St. Philip. Anne-Marie Burke reports now on some of the matches.
Baileys in the orange already had the 2-0 advantage over St. Catherine from the first half's play, and they would add one more to that score when goal shoot Camrisha Mason caught the rebound and scored. St. Catherine was sneaking one before the final whistle when the goal attack Daniel Sanson was contacted, and with the advantage she finished it off. But Baileys won the game 3-1. Hilda Skeen in the Maroon Bottoms had an easy encounter with St. Mark's. Goal shoot Whitney Fan leading the way. That's one of her 7. Hilda Skeen's midcourt was key to their success as a good defensive play gave Fan another chance and she made it count. Hilda Skeen totally dominated St. Mark's and took the game 11-0. Another lopsided matchup was that of Baileys and St. Philip Primary. This time, Baileys were not the victors. Actually, that's goal shoot Sayadine Nels from St. Philip. She was backed up by goal attack Mauricia Wickham. These two paired up to put 10 goals on the score sheet. Baileys ended without a goal, 10-0 to St. Philip. And in what was a low-scoring affair, Gordon Walters with ball possession won 2-0 over St. Catherine. Here's that first goal. Quite an effort by both goal shoot Kalisha Lovell and goal attack Lorena Raymond before it was Raymond to score. Lovell accounted for the other goal. It was a pretty easy shot. Anne-Marie Burke, CBC Sports.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Now to our sports talk. FIFA and the Jack Warner saga continues. And now, former General Secretary of the Barbados Football Association, Adrian Donovan, believes that it will be difficult to find an appropriate candidate to replace Warner if he is removed from the presidency of CONCACAF.
We're talking about the association that's 107 years old. 107. This is a Mickey Mouse organization that's come to town. Jack Warner has been a member of the FIFA executive for 28 years, the longest standing member.
Right.
He was on the bandwagon with Avalanche, he jumped ship and he's been set ladder. It's a family member that don't get sick. He's always there. Jack Warner is a millionaire because of football, a millionaire. And he has structured the football so much so in the region that there's nobody else lined up after him. He's the chief cook, border washer.
He's everything.
He opened the door in the morning, he locked the gate at night. If, as Ricky said, he's no more tomorrow, the end of CFU will come immediately. CFU is 85% run by Trinidadians, based in Trinidad. The two people who were suspended today for CFU officials are Trinidadians.
Debbie and Jason.
The whole regional football competition, which is called the Shell Academy, the Digicel Cup, is under serious threat. But out of all of this, what Hugh and Ricky is saying, and myself, we all agree, is that there will be serious repercussions whether or not Jack is found guilty or not. The integrity, the reputation of all Caribbean football administrators and country by large have been tarnished. The postponement would require 75% of the 208 delegates to call for a postponement, which I don't believe, all honesty, will happen. Because the fellas are already there. The process has already started. And all of those fellas you bet who are coming there now, the majority concern Sepp Blatter. They concern Sepp Blatter. But the other question now concerning Jack Warner, the way how it is structured, especially in the Caribbean point of view, there is nobody at all, none of the leaders of the other Caribbean associations who ever had a chance to be ahead of, let's say, a high-powered committee or to run a particular games that you could see that they have the experience or qualifications.
Yeah, just for the excuse, Don, I think though that the head of Jamaica though, he seems to be have been very vocal. Is it Burrell? Burrell. Yeah. And he and Jack seem to have had this really good relationship. I suspect that he would be a front runner.
Horace Burrell,
Captain Burrell.
Captain Burrell been on a very long time. But I also suspect too that if by chance Jack Jack goes, he's going to take all the soldiers with him. And Burrell is a soldier. I don't think that Horace would stick around if Jack goes.
Well, that's our sports talk, but of course if you're following ice hockey in Canada, and particularly the Stanley Cup, we want to make Jack smile. The Vancouver Canucks won that game against the Boston Bruins 1-0. And of course, you know, we'll continue to update you right here on Morning Barbados for sure as we continue to monitor what's happening in Canada as well. All right, we've got now 21 minutes after 7 o'clock. And we'll be right back with this, the lawyer on the line. It's time now for a lawyer on the line, as you just saw. Of course, we'll be taking your calls in this segment as well. We have joining us this morning the president of the Bar Association, Andrew Pilgrim, and Gyson Mears, our attorney, who's always with us. Good morning to both of you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
All right. We want to look today at the Evidence Act. You said?
Yeah.
Yes. Principally, why this is important this morning, you may have heard Andrew being reported in the press. I
thought you were saying something else.
He wasn't reported by the police or anything like that. And it's not that I know of.
Not yet.
He made some comments about the Evidence Act or deficiencies that persist some time after the Act was passed and after a decision was taken to put in place certain aspects of the Act. When the Act was passed, not every provision was put into force at the same time. The Act made provision for the Attorney General to later put in place certain protocols or practice codes to look after the interrogation of persons in police custody and things like that. No, they have not been fully enforced. I think as the president of the bar, Andrew will have a special interest in highlighting these issues. And recently he spoke to them, and I think it would be appropriate for me to give him this platform to hear those issues and to answer or to field any questions that are raised with respect to it.
And speaking of questions, we just want to remind our viewers that we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter. Send your questions in for the President of the Bar Association, Andrew Pilgrim, and of course our resident lawyer on the line, Gyson Mears. You can call us here at 228-5562 or 228-5563. Andrew, you've spoken with some vigor on the matter, and then, as Gyson said, here is your platform to treat those issues.
Well, thanks very much. I think the real concern is, what do we know about what happens in interrogations in Barbados? That is, if you're a suspect, you go into custody, is there anything that ensures us of how that interrogation goes on, ensures us that it's being done in a particular way? Obviously, people have rights, police have rights, and we want to know what happens behind closed doors. And the Evidence Act came into force in September of '94, and one section of that entire act was held back. Act has over 300 sections, and Section 72 was held back. And the question is why. Section 72 is the section that says you should be videotaping this or you should be audio recording this. All of what happens while I'm in custody. Now, because that's held back, we don't know what happens. So the police have to say, well, I told this man he has his right to an attorney at law. They have to say, I told you have the right to remain silent. But what happens is, we have a number of confessions. In almost every case that we deal with, we have confessions. And the question is, if the accused man is saying, I didn't confess, and the police are saying, yes, you did, who's right and who's wrong? Right. There's only one way that we can monitor it, is if there's some neutral party or there's some sort of recording process. And because Section 72 is held back, everything else is going ahead, we don't know. Okay. And therefore, good police are not being protected, and suspects who are being quote-unquote unfaired are not being protected either. And it's in the interest of everybody if there was some sort of neutral way of knowing what's going on.
Speak to me about the admissibility of evidence that is gathered in those circumstances, Andrew.
In other words, the police have to say, we told you of your rights, we told you this, we told you that, we gave you all your rights. And if the court accepts the word of the police, that evidence would be admissible because it would have been obtained in a fair manner. But the accused man is saying, you didn't tell me of those rights. You didn't tell me I could call a lawyer. You didn't allow me a phone call. I can even call my mother, and it becomes he said, she said, and you're at a very low level of proof. And the courts are in a position where they have to say, well, who do I believe? Do I believe the police? Do I believe the accused man and his mother and his sister who are saying, oh, we saw him and his face looked swell up? we want to be able to have some sort of neutrality on the issue.
So you said the police have to say that they told them.
If they don't say so, the conviction
Right.
going to go. The court is not going to accept it.
But are they obligated to tell them?
They are.
Okay.
So under our Constitution, you have the right to an attorney at law during the course of your interrogation. So if it is that you go into custody, and the police want obviously to do a proper investigation, they must tell you this. But in practice, do they actually tell you this is a question?
Okay.
That they want to do a proper investigation or interrogation?
Well, both.
They have
They
to
want
tell me
to
they
do
want to investigate?
No, they have, what I'm saying is that they must say to you, you have the right to an attorney.
That much?
You have a right to remain silent.
The Miranda
Basic
things.
Miranda type things that you call them in the US. We call them judges' rules here. But if they don't do that, the conviction will go. So then the police have to say they said it. I don't know if that sounds too complicated.
No.
But so that every case you pick up, the police will say, I saw Pearson. I told him, you have the right to an attorney at law. You have the right to remain silent. He then said to me, I ain't wanting a lawyer. Go ahead and do what you're doing.
Right.
I is who robbed the place. Case finish.
Okay.
But then when Pearson comes to his attorney, he said, but
I never said so.
Cindy, I never said so. I ain't said nothing so to nobody.
So
and
what-
they never told me these rights.
So what is this charged person's right? Do they have the right also to ask for one if that question is not asked? How does that work?
They have the right to ask, but who says they did? Who says they didn't? Police say they never asked for a lawyer. They say, I did. And we don't know what happens behind closed doors. That's the problem.
So while there's no video, there's also no other person, no third party?
There's no neutral party.
Okay.
So when I go to court, well, hold on. I said I asked for all of those things that I think I'm entitled.
Yes.
Policeman says he never did.
Yeah.
You guys, when you sit in there, don't argue the case thereafter? Or is it as
Yeah,
I feel
we argue
that
it.
I've all of a sudden confessed?
We argue it, but what are we arguing on?
That your client, Pearson, telling the truth.
Right. Pearson is telling the truth. Police say Pearson telling lies.
Well,
where are we?
We got
Is
a
that
case.
proof beyond a reasonable
We've
doubt?
got a case.
You understand the
But
difficulty?
don't I have the right to argue that fact, though? That I
Of course you have the right to argue it. And if not, I would be home doing something else.
Correct.
But the point is, what is the basis of my argument? It is exactly what your colleague said. He said, she
So
said.
there are those limitations, and we need to move past that so that we avoid this situation.
I put it in the way a witness put it recently in a case. Well, I won't believe the police because the police, them supposed to do their job properly. Is that what it comes down to? Do you believe the police because they're wearing a uniform, because they look better than the stereotyped accused who comes in looking disheveled and unsure of himself?
We have a caller on the line, but before we go to the call, I want to talk to you. Well, perhaps you can think about it while our caller poses our question. Some accused do know their rights. Do I have a right to ask a third party to be in the room and record? Think about that. We're going to go to Wayne on the line. Good morning, Wayne. Welcome to the program. What's your question?
Yes, my question is, a person is in police custody. The police say the person gives a statement concerning the matter. And then all they have to bring before the court is a bare statement. The person confesses but does not take the police and give them any evidence, shows them any clothing or anything concerning the crime. How does that get about?
The question is, what is satisfactory proof in any case? And if the police are saying, I have this confession here from him, he said the following things. In addition, he put his signature on a statement. The accused man is saying, I put my signature on that statement because police give me a lash around my head and I'd frightened. And the court is then faced with this balancing act of saying, well, I like how the police sounded. It sounded pretty good, but then the accused man sounded like he was really frightened when he was in custody. Who do I believe? As opposed to some sort of empirical way of knowing what really happened during the course of this interrogation. And that's what the Evidence Act would help us to clear up.
Which brings me back to the point I posed before the question. As an informed accused, someone who knows my rights, somebody who might have a friend named Pilly who's a lawyer,
for example,
can I not say, I don't like the look of the two of y'all. I need a videographer.
I need to see my lawyer.
I want to see my lawyer, or before he even gets here, bring a camera, bring some audio recording equipment. I have an audio recorder in my bag. Do I not have a right as the accused to ask for that as well?
Suppose you want to enforce all these rights, and the police say to you, I ain't giving you rights. I ain't giving you nothing.
Let's find out what Ricardo has to say about that. Good morning. Welcome to the program, Ricardo.
I didn't hear that last comment. It was on hold. But my concern is, so on so many occasions, people apparently give a confession, and we go to court. So what if he happens that the case comes to an end because this person confesses? My concern is, Pearson would have confessed. to avoid a more serious charge. If the police continue to investigate, as far as I'm concerned, and prosecute the case the way I believe it should be prosecuted, then Pearson will be prosecuted first outside the law, and end of story. Might these things going on too often.
Exactly. In other words,
upset me.
I agree with you completely. What we want to get to is a stage where we're looking for something more than a confession. In other words, in Barbados right now, you could be convicted of a serious offense on the basis of the police saying, he said he did it. We want to encourage more thorough investigations, and we want to encourage a level of transparency, a word we hear more in politics than in crime, a level of transparency in terms of the investigation.
Can we discuss the holdup with that?
Which holdup?
And not having that included in the act? Can we discuss that after our break?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll be right back on Morning Barbados with the lawyers on the line. At 28 away from 8 o'clock, I have a question which we posed to Andrew and, of course, Gyson before we took the break. But we're going to take Trevor's question. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
I was listening to the program. I just flew in here yesterday from New York. And on my way here, I was thinking about ways that Barbados should be able to get a group of people together, a neutral group, to monitor the police operation when it comes to cases in court. And I want to know, what can we do about officers who allegedly stated by the accuser that he was beaten and told to sign documentation saying that he did a crime that he did not do. This is the alleged accuser saying that the police allegedly do this. How do we counteract that?
The whole issue that we're looking at, Trevor, is proof. What can you prove about the interrogation process? If the accused man is on his own and he's saying, well, look, police beat me, they unfair me, this thing, next thing. If he doesn't have, say, bruising, and he can't establish, for example, that he did not have those bruises on the morning at 8:30 when he went into police custody, he's in great difficulty. And it's that whole thing we want to get to. For example, in some of the OECS territories, what they will do is they don't have recording, they don't have video, they don't have all of that, but they just have a JP has to be present during the interrogation. So there's somebody other than sergeant, whoever, that you can complain and say, look, these people didn't feed me, I eat nothing, or whatever. But I just want to emphasize also that this protects the good police as well as the person in custody. Because good police may do a thorough investigation. You get a smarty who has been through the court system a couple of times, and he say, police beat me. And he's a veteran in the system, he knows how to bring across his story. And then the judge is in the same quandary of trying to weigh up, these police sound believable, but I'm hearing so much about these allegations now of police brutality. And I'm confused, I'm throwing out the statement. And if there's no other evidence, case goes.
We have a caller on the line, but before we do, we have one of our avid viewers, Favia Morena, has messaged in on Facebook. She says, good morning. If you refuse to sign the confession, then what? If the police writes what he wants on the report or confession, don't sign it. Is it not then proof that I do not agree with their report?
It's a very interesting stance, but I think it's a stance that's for some people quite unrealistic. If you go into police custody on Monday, and I must emphasize, there are good police and bad police. You take some licks Monday, you take some licks Tuesday, you take some licks Wednesday. Is it that you can say, well, I refuse to sign, I simply am not signing, I shall not do it? You're tired getting licks, you're hungry, your belly burning, you're frightened. Maybe a police officer saying to you, man, we can help you out, man. You plead guilty, we can make sure you get probation. You think, well, I would like this to end. I'm going to sign.
Okay. Lordy. Clyde, step in.
Hi.
What's your call?
Hi, morning. My call is that this means from this discussion I'm hearing there could be people that are incarcerated at the moment that are actually innocent.
It means that?
Due to the fact that, or the police statement, although we have seen in countless newspapers different acts of different police officers which are not really up to policeman standards, caught with drugs, caught with this, caught with all sort of other things. So what are we going? How long will it take before this act is passed, and how much other innocent people will be incarcerated? That's my question.
Guys, and I think you could weigh in on this because you know the act came into force, the rest of it, in '94.
It's a question of verification. And what Andrew is essentially saying, verify what happens in the interrogation room, and all of this is put to rest. Right. But it's not really through want of a better system that this provision has not been passed. The fact that it was included in the Act, though, speaks to the fact that it is recognized by the authorities that it is needed. And we have been complaining about convictions based on confessions only for a long time. And one would have thought that it would have been something that would have been given higher priority. However, our police stations, with a very physical structure, most of them do not lend themselves to having an interrogation room. People are interrogated in the office that the public uses, or in a recreation room or something. There may have been, I think, 2 police stations that were specially equipped with interrogation rooms. So you find that for a proper interrogation to take place, accused persons are transported from one part of the country to one of these police stations that can be used to accommodate that. The use of video equipment, audio equipment, I am sure a number of senior police officers years ago were trained in the use of these things in anticipation of the coming of this provision and this requirement. However, I am not sure what happened between there and now. It seems, however, that the cost, the other attendant requirements may have delayed the passing or the proclamation of this provision, this one section. But the fact that it's included in the Act is an admission that it is an area of concern that needs to be addressed.
Before we go to Beverly, who's holding, guys, and given the fact that it's just one section, this section 72, and it hasn't anything to do, let's say for argument's sake, with the challenges that you've just pointed out, what else could be the motivation behind delaying the enacting of this one portion? What justification, what motivation could there be? I'm asking you to speculate.
Well, I can speculate and say... I can speculate and say I can't think of any, other than the challenge of putting that infrastructure in place, whether it be cost, whether it be training or whatever. But I know a number of senior officers but then they were senior investigators, not necessarily commissioners, the commissioners, were trained overseas. We had experts from outside coming to Barbados to train more of those people, so there has been some training that went on in doing these kinds of investigations.
Andrew, you want to jump in on this quickly before we go to the call? Go ahead.
I just want to say that, you know, if in '94 our parliamentarians acknowledged the need, that there was a need for this problem, that the very concerns you were voicing, Pearson, that these are things that need to be addressed. So in '94 now, and we're up in 2011, the bill went back to court again in 2005, and the act was proclaimed, I think, in 2007, and it's being argued that that act did not bring into effect Section 72. So Section 72 is there all this time, everybody acknowledged the need for it, nothing being done. My speculation is people feel we can't get convictions without confessions, and we're not sure that we'll get any confessions if we're videotaping them because the police are not doing the job the way they should be doing it.
Speculation. Beverly, don't speculate. Come forward with your question. Good morning.
Good morning to you all.
Morning.
My question is, when the police hold a person and question them, and the person cannot read, and they give a statement, and they don't know what they exactly tell the police, and can't read it, what can you do about it?
Well, it becomes an issue quite often. Recently, in a case I was doing, the young man was saying, well, I can't even read and write. And the police were saying, of course you can read and write. You told us which school you went to, and so on and so forth. And again, it comes back to this thing of who do you believe? And because you're not going to have, during the course of a trial, a proper test to determine the person's acumen, it comes back to, in the case I was actually asking the jury, well, look at the handwriting of this young man. You can see at the very least that he had challenges with writing. Will you bear that in mind and balance it against the fact that you have trained police officers who are saying this and saying that? He's alleging beating, they're saying no beating, and I ask you to balance these things and say, well, that can't be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And it comes back down to, again, who you feel you believe, and it's like justice is down to feeling wrong in the dark.
So you mentioned things like not having necessarily these specialists, there are people in other parts of the world who deal with handwriting patterns. They will tell you who wrote something and never saw that person write it. They can tell you what year it was written in, based on the paper it's written on. So how much do we involve specialists like that, lie detector tests, things like that, in the absence of cameras?
We have very little of that type of equipment. And in any event, it's not a case of the person usually saying, I didn't sign it. In other words, I'm not saying it's not my handwriting. I'm saying, I signed it, but you want to know why I signed it?
Right.
And that's the type of
So what is the role of a lie detector test in that? Do we use that? Do we employ that at all?
We don't use lie detector tests. I don't think that's somewhere that we're going to go either, because they're not supposed to be as
they're not
credible?
admissible in court.
Exactly.
Because they're not credible for it.
Okay.
Well, Shelley, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
Morning.
A question for the lawyer, please. If I have a family member who was charged, police said they hold him for a crime, they have evidence. Family member is telling me it's not so, they did not hold him with anything. It's been going 2 years now. There has not been granted. I mean, like, where do we as family go from there to get our loved one out of there?
You need to go and get a lawyer. The real question is whether the big issue in Barbados is whether you should have legal aid for everything. In other words, Pearson goes into custody. He doesn't have money. Sorry, Pearson, you're becoming the accused man. He doesn't have money. Okay, he gets legal aid automatically in Barbados for murder or rape. We don't have legal aid for anything else unless you're a minor.
Okay.
So all minors are protected, which is great. So do we as a society feel that we're at the stage where for any offense that's serious, for example, where there's imprisonment, that the person should get a lawyer provided for them, and that lawyer should be available to them from the time they're in custody, and that they're be in a position to make their arguments? Well, I never had this firearm, I never had this cocaine, I never had this marijuana, whatever. And should we have lawyers for everything that's very serious? And you don't want a lawyer for a speeding ticket, but do you think you should have one for anything where prison is?
To Shelley is get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer, and hopefully it's not too late to go back now and deal with that interrogation process and deal with these things to try to prove what really happens.
And don't forget, there are safeguards built into the system. It's not all feely-feely. It's a higher level than feeling as Andrew were projected.
Before you go on, guys, and please hold on to that thought. Okay. We're going to take in our final traffic report for the morning. We have to do that right now, but please share your views right after. We're going to hear from Sergeant Siebert Johnson. It's 7:44. That means you've got 16 away from 8 o'clock. Good morning, Sergeant Johnson.
Good morning to you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great.
How are you feeling about the discourse happening around the table right now?
I'm listening with immense interest.
I would imagine so. So am I, Sergeant Johnson.
Keep at it. You're doing well.
How's traffic?
Good morning to your guests. A very good morning to your guests. Good morning to our viewers and our listeners. No collisions reported to us this morning. Just steady heavy traffic reported on all of our major roads. Conditions along the area of Highway 5 were building. We have heavy traffic this on Map Hill going on Government Hill. Still heavy on Highway 6 Sergeant Village heading on Upper Calmarock. Still heavy along Forest Road at Dalkeith Hill. And Matt still going on talk about the usual morning flow that's heavy going into the city. On the northern side, we have heavy traffic coming from Highway 1, Whole Town going towards the Blackrock Road. University Drive, Husbands Road, those areas are on the build-up. And heavy traffic flows reported along the area of Highway 2, Jackson going on Green Hill. Hustle turning Watford, still heavy. Highway 4 going towards Normanelle Zoneabout, still on the heavy side as well. And on the ABC area, we have moderate traffic. Our roads are busy. We are asking all road users to continue to exercise due care for us. I will continue to listen to your guests with interest. However, have a good day. Whatever you do, enjoy it. That has been our traffic.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Johnson. Certainly good things you've said there. We wish you a great and safe day today as well. We'll take a short break and then we'll continue with our attorneys at law, Gyson Mears and Andrew Pilgrim, the new bar president. We'll be right back. It's 13 away from 8 o'clock. This is Morning Barbados, and we are talking with the lawyers on the line today. You can call us at 228-5562 or 63. But, Gyson, you were talking about, you know, it's not necessarily for want of a better system generally, that there are safeguards. So Talk some more about that.
I do not think there is any provision we have now, any safeguard that neutralizes the requirement of having this provision being put in place. There are other safeguards, but they still leave a wide gap between what is required and what is.
But this is necessary.
It is necessary, I think, to take away the suspicion of what happens in interrogation.
Fair enough.
In court, the he say, she say is determined by an experienced judge based on the evidence presented before him. The criminal defense attorney will present his case, the prosecution presents his case, and the judge says, based on what I see, based on what I've heard, I believe this is the case or that is the case. That is not foolproof. And I think what Andrew is pointing to is that even in the best of those circumstances, you cannot be sure. And that is the basic requirement. At the front level, the police are not at liberty to take you off the street and keep you in custody for 2 weeks and then bring you to court after they've softened you up enough to get a confession from you. There are time limits built in to how long they can do this, at what point do they have to present you before the court. One of the constitutional protections that everybody is entitled to is that you have to be presented to a court in a
reasonable time. Question is, how long is that?
In whose mind is reasonable? And how long are they allowed to detain me?
There's a perception in Barbados that you have 2 days, that you have 48 hours.
What's the reality?
The reality is that you rely on a court ruling that the time is unreasonable. And in practice, most people in custody don't have a lawyer, and they don't have an opportunity to challenge that 2 days. So that typically with most serious offenses in Barbados, you'll be in custody for 4 days, 5 days.
Before you actually get to
a court.
And that's common. That's common. It can be that long.
We have another caller on the line. We'd like to say good morning to Anne and welcome to the program. You're live on the air.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody.
Good morning, Anne.
Yeah, I want to know if I want some support from y'all, gentlemen, the lawyers on call. I was terrorized, you can say, by the police. They were looking for a man, and they came at the wrong house in my district. They came in, they break down the doors, and came in. Nobody let them in. My children were home, and my girl was in kitchen cooking. And when she came up to the house, she saw the door open and these men in the house. She asked, I was not at home, asked them who they are. They ain't answer. All they're asking for is this man by name, this body they're looking for. She said, but who is this person? And they keep on asking, they went in the bedroom, spot the light for my grandson, the spot the light for my son. He was sleeping, burst open the doors, and they trample through the house, break down the flooring, window.
What would you like to ask the attorneys?
I would like to know what right can I have for this, because this is over 2 years now this was done.
The real difficulty that a lady faces here is something that goes even beyond interrogation. It raises a point that I was discussing with my friend Bobby Clark recently. Bobby feels that you should have cameras beyond the interrogation room, that every time a police vehicle goes out, there should be cameras affixed to that police vehicle, and so on and so forth. But the point is, we need to feel that the police are being fair. If police, in that circumstance, they would have been duty-bound to present a warrant on the outside and say, we are looking for X, here's a warrant properly signed by a JP, and so on and so forth, and then make entry with your, in a proper fashion. If you don't cooperate, then they would have the right to break down door and do whatever. But the difficulty is, how do we police these situations?
Troy, good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning. I have a question for the lawyers. Let's say that the police is carrying out an investigation in an area, and they happen to stumble across me, Troy. Can they say, well, excuse me, sir, you getting here? What is my right containing the police officer saying you getting here without a warrant or reading me my right? Can I retaliate?
Well, retaliate is not the word I would want you to use. Police have the right to arrest in certain circumstances, but generally at the back of much of that is that they have to show that they have reasonable grounds or reasonable suspicion to believe that you committed an arrestable offense, which is an offense that you would do 5 years or more in prison for. So generally speaking, that police would have to show, we have reason to believe that Troy was doing something, concealing something, or they had received information to say that you had done these things. You're entitled to say to them, I have done nothing, I'm not acting in any suspicious way. What are your grounds? What is your basis for this? What is give me some good reason why I should be allowing you to go into my pockets.
But under the judge's rules, the police have the right to question anybody.
Right.
But that stops at a certain point. You can't go beyond, or you can't use the ability to question to justify an arrest or taking away. And even though they do not say they are arresting you, if they take you away without your consent, you've been arrested. And if you have been arrested without reasonable cause, then that gives you rights to a civil action against the police.
Let's go to Brian, who's on the phone line. Good morning, Brian. You're live on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Brian. Brian.
I was wondering if the interrogation, the cameras and everything on, if they could stop the camera, do what they want to do, and start it back.
But once from the time you introduce the idea of cameras, there's always this possibility now that people will say, oh, well, this was tampered with and so on. My first step is at least to get in the cameras. And then we need to try to find out, we need to monitor it and ensure that these things are done in a manner that we can review them and be sure that this is not edited in a way, as you all gentlemen and ladies will know about editing, and whether this is not done in a way that then takes out the part where you get a cuff in your mouth and puts it back with the part where you sign in.
But the wonderful thing about cameras and recordings is that they have timelines.
Yes, and there's demeanor things too that will always be there. In other words, a fella in a room who has been there for 5 days and is hungry and has been beaten is going to look different to somebody who comes in fresh and is told of all their rights and has just finished eating a sandwich and ready to sign.
Before we go to John, who's on the line, guys, and how does the exclusion of this act and all that we've talked about and its implications affect how you do your job when I, the accused, comes to you and says, this is the story?
Well, it impacts very significantly, because very often it determines a win or a loss. If you have somebody who is telling you the truth, and you must assume that not all accused persons tell the truth to their attorneys. But if somebody is telling you the truth and they said none of these things happened, well then it's an open and shut case if you can establish that in the court. So it makes a tremendous difference. However, let me go back to the point about the cameras being doctored. When cameras come, and I say when rather than if, because they will come. When cameras come, certain protocols will come with them. So that you can't just install a camera and say we have a camera. There will be a system of operation. There will have to be verification of different things. And that timeline that you see always there will have to be verified in some way. So
all the checks and balances will have to be in place.
Yes.
Right. John, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What is the Bar Association doing to pressure on the powers that be to include this 72 provision? Do you think you have a responsibility to do that?
Agitating up and down the place, going by Ayakobi Center Saturday, talking hard, going on the radio, going to the newspaper, and inviting people to talk to their representatives about these issues. Also trying to encourage people to say that we should have a movement where the government makes available to the people of Barbados free online all the laws of Barbados. So that's a new thing you could go and do. Everybody, just go and say to your representatives, say to people, we want the laws of Barbados available to us. We don't have to go to the government printery and pay $100 for this act, $20 for that act, $30. All free online so we can read and know what our rights are. Not just for criminal purposes. We want to know how to incorporate a company, become an entrepreneur. We want all those things available to us.
Andrew, you're talking as though these things don't take an awful lot of time. That is like handing an iPad to a child in Malawi who's never even opened a physical book.
But it's a start to know that all our laws would be available to us. And you could say to people, we could then do educational programs. Just go and read the Constitution first. Go and find out what your fundamental rights are.
Okay.
Let's start moving towards that.
All right, Paulette is holding on. Good morning, Paulette.
Hi, good morning.
Hi. Good morning, Paulette.
I'm kind of saying, as a policeman, have the right to come to your home with a warrant for looking for some person else. I want to if the person lives there, I still want to search your home.
Well, really, if that person doesn't live in your home, they're not entitled to come in and search. Sometimes warrants will have like a little confusion, like they come looking for Anderson Pilgrim. And you say, well, there's no Anderson Pilgrim here, there's an Andrew. I think the courts will give some leeway if there's a little discrepancy. But if they come to your home and say, well, come to my home and say, we're looking for Cassandra. I say, well, I got a Cassandra here. That should be the end of the matter.
Really? So what if it's a lie?
Thank you so much.
Cassandra's really in there
the police now have to show that they have reasonable grounds to believe, one, that Cassandra is a regular and usual occupier of these premises, for example, and reason to believe that you're being false with
Is that go back and come back? Or is that we can do that right here on the spot at the door?
Well, I think they have to show that they have reasonable grounds there and then. Because you have to be fair to the police too. Police go to a house, for example, and you say, well, we're looking for Andrew Pilgrim. My wife comes out the door and says, Andrew Pilgrim? Never heard of him. don't live nowhere about here. But we just saw him come out the yard there from taking a shower. We saw him go inside. What are you telling us? No Andrew Pilgrim here. And then you're in difficulty. So they have to be able to show that we have reasonable grounds to believe that this person is being hidden here and so on and so forth.
As a criminal, well, I was going to say as a criminal lawyer, Geisen started out, so I paused. I am not accusing anyone. I was just saying, as a criminal lawyer, you've seen a lot of situations, some unfair, some people that you probably have to defend who you know are guilty, but you have to do what you have to do. But a lot of things have also been happening in our society, and while we talk about that part of the act that is necessary, that 72 section, how do we create the balance in society so that people are able to trust and respect who they ought to, and those who do wrong get the justice, go through the system the way they should, and things flow, and bring back that balance? What do you think needs to happen?
You need a well-trained police force. You need systems like what we're talking about in 72, because Section 72 will make it easier for the police. In other words, for example, Mark Thompson, Senior Superintendent of Police, was at the Iacobie Center on Saturday, quite rightly taking in the complaints and concerns of the public. And he was saying, look, we want Section 72 as well. In other words, the right-thinking police officer wants all of this too, because it will protect him.
I like the fact that you said that protect the good ones and protect those who need protection from the ones that are
better for the public, better for the police, everybody happy.
It serves everybody's interest to have it.
Lovely.
Great final words, guys, and thank you very much. Thank you to Andrew Pilgrim.
Too late for shout-outs?
Too late.
Say hello quick.
Big up mommy, big up daddy.
He does that every time he comes.
All right, then, why not? Let him do his
and
thing.
a shout out to everybody that playing basketball in Barbados. BA, big up. Derek Garrett, you running things well. Lovely basketball.
Yeah, Peter Crocker.
We got Jeff, but we got scrimmage next week.
We have a warrant.
I know.
So shall we go? We'll catch you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Cropover 2011. It's our heritage. It's our culture. It's explosive color and pulsating rhythms. CBC TV8, right there with you this